Someone's voice deeper than mine, I defer to them. Absolutely. You ready? Good evening, everybody. Hey. I love this. How's everybody doing? Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. And let me first say this. I promise that the program is going to be short because it's warm and we're kind of close and everybody wants to get back out and network. And that was the whole purpose of this, really, to get to meet our nonprofit partners. So I assure you that today's remarks will be indeed brief. But let me first say I'm Desiree Griffin-Moore. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Foundation for Prince George's. And well, we are indeed pleased to have you join us today for the very first Nonprofit Expo. Today's program is to celebrate the incredible work that our nonprofits do in Prince George's County. And hopefully, all of you have had a chance to walk around and talk to many of our nonprofit leaders that have been stationed throughout the building. And so if you haven't, I encourage you to do so. There's some that are on the corridor over here, but also there are many more inside of the gallery. So once we finish the program, I encourage you to go back out and go through the gallery and definitely take a look at the African American Museum as well. We have a lot of special guests, and I'm so pleased to be able to join us today. And first and foremost, as an executive director of a nonprofit organization, you know who I'm going to introduce first.
Board president.
The board! I learned that one myself. Okay, but I am so pleased to have members of our board here with us today. And I'd like to recognize Betty Hager-Francis and the Howard Stone. Sam Parker's supposed to be joining us as well, so I'm not sure if he's in the back, but I appreciate you guys joining us today. And then secondly, I'd like to recognize some very important and very special partners that have been working with the Community Foundation, specifically in support of the partnership for almost 5 years now. Karen Fitzgerald of the Meyer Foundation. Karen is the co-chair of the Partnership Steering Committee, as well as sits on the Grants Committee. Heather Iliff of Maryland Nonprofit. And the very deep voice of Major Lewis. We're so appreciative of your support. You guys have hung in there with us for the past 5 years, helping us to get to this point. And hopefully you'll stay with us to move it even on to the next level. You all like this space? Yeah. Awesome. Beautiful. Well, we are just, we're appreciative and gratified with the support that we were able to get from the folks over at the Gateway Community Development Corporation. And so I'd like to recognize Laura Rogers, who's president of the board of Gateway, and John Paradiso, who's the facility manager. They've been extremely helpful in helping us get today's program in the facility. So again, we appreciate it. And John's probably still around somewhere. He's been with us all day getting stuff together. And also Matthew Thorne of the Prince George's African American Museum. Hey. If you have not seen the museum, I encourage you to do so. That is also on the lower level. So as you go through the gallery, there's another door that'll take you, and you'll see, you can't miss it. Because they got this awesome floor in there that I am going to, I'm getting that in my house. It's a done deal. But again, definitely take a look at that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's always been just, and wonderful partners with the Community Foundation. If you haven't gotten your swag bag, make sure you do that. That's through the generosity of Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. For those of you who don't know, the Community Foundation is a nonprofit organization with a basic mission of strengthening local communities by way of effective giving and through collaborative community engagement. Again, today's program is another step in that, in our endeavors to do that. We believe that first-class communities obviously have to have good schools, Y'all agree with that?
Yes.
Gotta have businesses.
Yes.
Must have jobs.
Yes.
But also, what's equally important, first-class communities have to provide opportunities for all of its residents to be able to give back and participate in their communities. And so that's something that we embrace wholeheartedly as a community foundation. We strive to do that through our grant making as well as through the convening roles that we take throughout the year. The partnership, as I said, was launched in 2008, and its purpose was to develop and strengthen our nonprofit organizations, not only so that they can respond to the needs, but so that they can deliver effective services. And there's a distinct difference in those two concepts. Would y'all agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we want to make sure that the services that our residents, particularly our most vulnerable residents, that they receive the very best high quality services that they are due. And so we've been working with many of our partners in the field to do just that. Today's, the purpose of today is to celebrate that work. And with that, I'd like to invite Amina Anderson to come forward to present to you some information about our lead fellows. But first, when I talk about introducing my board, I'd also be remiss if I did not at least acknowledge this wonderful staff that we have at the Community Foundation. And so, I'd like to thank Mena Amen, Diana Sadiki, who's at the desk, Kate Neely, Angela Jones Patrick, who's and last but certainly not least, our awesome, fabulous, fantastic Amina Anderson. Oh, I did forget about it. I told you she gets me in line. And also, two things that I did not do. I want to first, and I think that she deserves special recognition and a rousing round of applause, our very own council member from District 4, but I think it's important for you all to know that we've just been so blessed to get the support of so many people, particularly our elected leaders. And one of them is Councilmember Derek L. Davis, who led the charge for us to be able to get a proclamation commemorating the first class and the inaugural event for the Nonprofit Expo. I won't read it all, but I encourage you to take a look. But lastly, it does say, now therefore, be it proclaimed by Prince George's County Council that the Community Foundation for Prince George's County is wished much success in its inaugural Prince George's County Nonprofit Expo. We really appreciate
And let me say thank you to all of you for coming to this afternoon. How many of you came to this event because you heard that we were having Ben and Jerry's ice cream? Got one honest person. But regardless of the reason that you came, we are so glad that you did, because it's one of the ways that the foundation wanted to say thank you for all your support. On a very serious note, I know that you came because, like me, you recognize how important nonprofits are to our community. So everybody in this room, we don't really have a question about the value or the need for nonprofit organizations. But the question that I do ask myself, and maybe you do too, is, tell me to speak loud, my voice is gone. But the question I often ask myself is, how do we get more people in the circle? How do we expand the number of nonprofit organizations that can do incredible work? How do we get our colleagues, our family, and our friends to give? Well, one of the ways that I think that we can do that is just by arming ourselves with information. And and then to take that information and to share it with the people, not you, you already know it, but the people who aren't in this room. So we've got two individuals that are here this afternoon to help us really think more critically about what are those issues. What are the issues facing the county? Or what can we as individuals, as employees, as volunteers, as donors, what can we do to try to improve conditions in our community? So I'm going to ask Angela Jones-Hackley, who's the Vice President for Community Investment for the Community Foundation for the National Capital Region, to join here. And I'm also going to ask Betty Hager-Francis, these three people named, Betty Hager-Francis, to come up. Betty is the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Health, Human Services, and Education for Prince George's County. I practiced Betty. So I'm going to ask you to come up as well, Angela, Betty. Actually, now that I have both of you on what I would say was the hot seat, I can ask you anything I want to, right? Yes, raised Betty. And actually, there was some people in the audience earlier who was asking, I'm just putting it out there, Angela, single and married. I have a double name. So actually, I've asked Betty and Angela to think and to share with us their perspective on just two questions. And so I'm going to start with Betty, and the question is to give us your thoughts from a local perspective about what are those issues on the horizon that are emerging that we need to be thinking about and aware of here in Prince George's County. What are their implications for the county?
Thank you, Anita, and it is so wonderful to see everybody here this afternoon. You know, typically we're going to talk about challenges, and Prince George's County certainly has its challenges. But I want to talk this afternoon about some of the really good things that are happening in Prince George's County. Because there are really wonderful things happening here, and we should recognize them because we are all here for one reason, well, two reasons. We either live here or we work here, but all of us love Prince George's County. Because that is one thing that we know that people get once you get here. And I'm one who came and thought I would be here 6 months, and that was 17 years ago, and have no intention of moving. So we get here, we love it, and we should really be the ones who are going around telling the good news. And that's the emerging thing I want to talk about, that we're going to change our attitude about Prince George's County. Because Prince George's County is terrific. It is one of the most diverse communities in the region, if not the world. We know that it has the highest income level still and education level for a majority African American community. We have a county executive who, you will excuse me, but he is terrific. And he's brought a whole new spirit of cooperation and collaboration among elected officials and the nonprofit community. How many of you attended the nonprofit summit that we had earlier that the county executive sponsored? But he's working with the Prince George's County Council in a brand new way. He's working with the Prince George's County Board of Education in a brand new way, and we are making great progress. One of the things, you mentioned education. We're always talking about economic development, and we hope we get gaming. Yes, we do, because that's really going to lay a commercial base for us that is unparalleled. We have the greatest economic development project on the East Coast down at National Harbor. I mean, that's us. And it is wonderful. And we're about to really expand that and do some other wonderful things. So economic development is really moving. But our educational system is moving as well. I don't know if you're reading the stories, but they're starting to emerge. Yes, we're starting to see Dr. Height leave. You know, but think about it. Most of our other superintendents have left with a sense of crisis. Dr. Height is leaving because he was picked out as a superstar. And he was here and helped us change our educational level here in Prince George's County. I have a little cheat sheet. I'm going to give you 2 examples of how education has changed and the progress we are going to continue to make in education. Back in 2003, only 40% of our 3rd graders were called proficient in reading. The state level is 80%. No, I'm wrong. The state average is 85%. In 2012, 80% of our 3rd graders are reading. That is progress.
That's right.
And we are not only going to reach the state level, we're going to surpass it.
Right.
Because we have got some of the most talented people in the world right here in Prince George's County. I want to tell you about math. In 2004, only 49.4% of the students were showing as proficient in the 3rd grade. In 2012, 80% are reaching proficient level in standardized tests. Now, at the state level, the state standard is 87%. Now, some people still have issues. You know, we have issues in everything, and there are things that we have to fix in our educational system. But we're working on it. And there's a plan in place by the Board of Education with Dr. Height that is, I'm sure, going to be continued. So stand by, watch the stories, but most importantly, believe it, because it's real. We had last year the greatest reduction in overall crime, I think, in our county's history. And believe this, if we stay in the same trends that we are in right now, we're going to break the records. And people will be coming to Prince George's County to figure out how we did it. So stand by, but tell the story. And don't believe everything you read in the Washington Post unless it's good about Prince George's
Yeah, so Angela, same question, just from a regional perspective. What are some of those issues that you see in your work regionally that you think have implications for the county?
I mean, I think one of the things, my work is regional work, and so I look at everything through the lens of how can what happens at a local level rise up and be replicated and celebrated at a regional level. So I certainly think some of the dynamics that's happening through the investments in the Partnership for Prince George's about how you build capacity in the nonprofit sector is something that we can learn at a regional level and apply and replicate. And actually some of those conversations have been happening with folks on the other side of the river in Northern Virginia. Desiree's been involved in some of those conversations. So I think that there is, I often am the person that gets to talk about doom and gloom sometimes in the funding world, but it's nice to celebrate the really good stuff that's happening, because there are people who are committed to really good causes, doing really good work, and to the extent that we can lift that up. And then, in some ways, replicate. I see Kim back here. We're very excited that we just invested in a really great workforce development program. And at a regional level, my job is also to try to get individual donors, not just in Prince George's County, but from around the region, to look at what are really good models that are working for Prince George's County that can work elsewhere throughout the region. Because folks that need jobs wherever they live, and people, and I'm a person who grew up in DC, I'm a native Washingtonian. My family is all over the region. I now live in the hinterlands of Northern Virginia, and so I don't, I know. I have the, the privilege of working regionally, but I also don't have necessarily a local lens, because I live and work and play across all 3 states, because that's just the way my life is. And I think that people travel to where there are the best services. And so, of course, my job is to help Desiree and others in the county make those best services also happen in Prince George's County. And I'm proud to say that some of that's happening, and they're excited about some of the investments we're making in the county.
Yay.
Last question, Betty, you touched on it earlier, you talked about spreading the word, but again, just if you can give us any other thoughts about what can we as individuals do beyond spreading the word that would help educate people about the importance of the nonprofit sector.
About educating people about the
What more
importance
do
of
beyond your
the
first line?
about nonprofit sector. But the nonprofit sector should continue to do the great work that it's doing. Nonprofits are part of are embedded in the fabric of our community, and you help in every single solitary way. But you're also business owners, and we recognize that as well, part of the economic fabric of our county. And so I'm asking you to please tell the story, but also expand your capacity and work with others. Join together with other nonprofits and expand, as I said before, expand your capacity by forming partnerships, collaborations, and work with us all to make sure that the county is the best it can be. And please, please pay attention to the school board elections that are coming up in the fall. It's extremely important that you pay attention and that we select the correct candidates for the school board.
And yes, same question, but you work at so many levels with nonprofits, with donors, with funders.
I mean, I think it all boils down to how you tell the narrative about your work. I'm a policy person. I often talk in lingo, but the important connection to donors is what happened with their investment and how it impacted somebody else's life. They don't want to hear necessarily that you gave 500 bags of food, but what did that one bag of food mean for that child that wouldn't have otherwise had food over the weekend? What did it really mean in terms of changing the dynamics of community? Last year, we began to kind of espouse this model that our work is about change, not charity. Charity is good and serves a purpose. But in terms of the Community Foundation's emphasis, it really is on how do we change this community so that, as Amina and I think Desiree said, all boats rise at the same time and that everybody can participate in the prosperity of this region. And that really is what it's about. So it's the narrative, it's the stories about the good work that you're doing and the people that are being impacted by the work that you do. The more you do that, the better. And the other thing is that I get lots of information, but if I don't know about you, I can't tell my donors about you. So you can email me. Electronic is best. I'll put it in a file. But the more that information I get about the work that's happening, the more I know, and the more I'm able to impart that to donors. So I don't know if my email address is somewhere, but it's somewhere on our website. So you can,
Yeah, I'm Betty.
I'm Betty.
I just wanted to add one thing because I know I should be helping you to figure things out. The county is, as you may or may not know, focusing on 6 neighborhoods in the county in this Transforming Neighborhoods initiative. And the county has various grants that it provides to nonprofits. I can tell you that the grants will have standards, but one of the standards will be that services are being provided in one of those 6 areas. And there will be also additional and new performance standards. The county's contracts from the human services agencies and the health department will also be focused and strategic in that way. So if that helps in any way, I hope that.
And I would just add, don't shy, from our perspective, don't shy away from applying for efforts that appear to be regional in scope. Because, for example, we wouldn't have an investment in Prince George's County were it not for the training source applying for the round workforce development. And we're very serious about our regional grant rounds to make some equitable distribution to the extent that we can. But if we have no grantees, which often happens, we often have regional grant rounds where there are little to no applications from Prince George's, and we kind of call and say, who can we, but just don't shy away from it. Put your application in. If you don't get funded the first time around, call a program officer and say what happened, and then we'll give you advice and then apply the next round. But really, get yourselves out there because we are as much interested in what's happening in the county as we are anywhere else in the region.
very much. You've given us lots of food for thought. Clearly, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but the great thing is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to ask Karen Fitzgerald, who's the co-chair of the partnership with Prince George's County and senior program officer with the Meyer Foundation. Thanks, Karen.
I'm really happy to be here tonight, see so many people come. I know there's lots of things you can do on a summer night, so thanks for coming and celebrating with us. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the partnership to recognize our 2012 LEAD Fellows, and LEAD stands for Leaders Engaged in Achieving Development. The partnership was formed to build a network of sustainable nonprofit organizations working with public partners, private partners, to make measurable improvements in the lives of families and communities in Prince George's County. Each of the leaders that we're honoring here tonight recently completed the partnership's 12-month capacity building and leadership development program. It addresses the 4 core capacities of effective nonprofit organizations: adaptive, management, technical, and leadership. This fellowship required these leaders to make a significant commitment of time and energy over the course of the year. It began with an in-depth organizational assessment. It was followed by a rigorous selection process, a 2-day retreat, executive coaching, monthly leaders circles, technical assistance, training in nonprofit management, meetings with key thought leaders in the region. And I had the chance to talk to some of the leaders tonight, and they all said, even though it was a lot of time, it was totally worth it. So this program is a culmination of this year-long effort. It's a way for the partnership to introduce, and for some of us, reintroduce these leaders to all of you, and to share the important work that they're doing in the nonprofit sector. These 5 organizations join a growing list of nonprofits that have benefited from the partnership's work. More than 40 have received grants from the partnership. Over 500 have participated in our management assistance workshops, used our self-assessment tools, and joined in peer learning opportunities. So the partnership and all of our supporters here tonight, and if you're here, you're one of our supporters, salute our 2012 graduates and ask that you all join in supporting the ongoing work that they're doing in each of the areas in which they work: food security, HIV/AIDS awareness and prevention, victims' rights and assistance, foreclosure prevention, and homeownership and access to college. And before I introduce these to the leaders, I want to draw your attention to a really beautiful booklet that the communications did. Mine is a little less beautiful because I spilled some. You can read more about each of the individuals that we're honoring and their organizations in here. So I'm going to introduce them, and then if you want more information, this is where you should go. So, Thomas Chandler, Executive Director, Mid-Atlantic Cleaning Network.
our 5th anniversary, and there's this like huge group of fellows standing up here. Looking forward to that day. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our program. But let me, before I officially close the program, I told you short. That's right, we tried. I'm sorry. Oh. Again, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully you had a good time.
Yes.
And always, as we think about this work, I mean, in our field, we always want to think about what's the call to action, what's the soul of all of this.
Give money to the community foundation.